Hello, hardheads. Welcome back to another episode of Hardcover Hooligans. We are back with the second book of the Farseer Trilogy. And Mac, I have a question for you.
I have an answer.
If you got a chance to have a wit bond with an animal, which animal are you choosing, and why is it a giant squid?
Oh, but, okay, it's definitely not a giant squid. I was going to say giant frog.
Giant frog,
like giant, not like a dinosaur-sized frog. I mean, like a real big, like one of these big frogs.
Not like a human-sized frog. No. We're gonna find a human-sized frog.
Like a real animal. Damn it! Yours would be giant squid, huh?
No, I was asking you because I know you. You famously love squids.
No, that's not true, listener. I famously hate squids, and we're off on a good start. I'm instantly
I just think
scared.
It's funny how immediately you would be stoned by the community because you're the giant frog man. Like you can't hide a giant frog.
Yeah, what do you think that would be like? We get glimpses in this book of Fitz being like more wolf-like. What do you think being more frog-like? I'm just skipping everywhere, and I'm like that. That'd be pretty sweet.
Start riveting. Like there's a giant frog hanging around the castle. Do you know anything about that?
This section here is so like a warrior cat's coded. You know, it's so like you ever have did you go to school with anybody who would pretend to be a wolf like in middle school?
Oh, I did not, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, I did. And they rode my bus. Shouts out. They were perfectly nice, but they were on my bus in elementary school and middle school, and it's no fault at all to Robin Hobb that I have this connection to this person. But every once in a while, Fitz would be like, "I'm turning in wolf mode." I'd be like, "Stop! Just don't say stuff."
Yeah,
like
the
that.
The difference is this is actually happening in the world.
Yes, that's true. He is actually turning into a wolf.
It would be very cringe if he was not. He would start acting like a wolf.
Do you think so? The first book was a dog. Second book's a wolf. Third book is cheetah, a dinosaur, velociraptor. Who knows?
Giant wolf,
giant frog,
or like it's like a Pokemon. Like what's the Blastoise of wolves?
He's well, that's our title. We just found the title, the Blastoise of wolves.
Okay, so we are here. The book is called Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb.
Terrible title, but that's not Robin Hobb's fault, apparently.
Published in 1996, 1 year after The Assassin's Apprentice. We are reading half of this book through chapter 17 and talking about it. Do you have anything to say about this second half? I know, or the first part of the second book.
I do.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've read a trilogy, and so it was sort of like a standalone trilogy. So it was sort of interesting to be like, we're in like second book mode. And like, since I was like in middle school, like I forgot what it felt like to be in the second book. But I think it's handled pretty well, but also
it is handled pretty well and also not expected, I don't think, to be read back to back, because there's a lot of parts where two characters are like talking to each other and it's like, gosh, this is just like that time we were betrayed by Prince Regal in the bathhouse at Champe. Don't you remember that?
Well, there's a whole section in the prologue where he's like, let me recount how I got here, which I think is such a fun, like, relic of the past, like pre-internet, because like there's no reason for any authors to do that now, because people can just look at a summary of the book. But back then, you had to read the book.
Yeah, you had to reread it, or like have somebody, because even like the summary on the back wasn't going to give you all the information because you need the specifics going into the second book. But I like this. I hesitate to say a lot more because that makes it sound like I didn't like the first half of the first book, but that's not true. It's just that we get right into the intrigue here, and he's not like 6 years old for 200 pages.
And the characters are a lot more fleshed out, of course, because this is the second book.
Yeah, we just like catch up with the relationships that we started to really like in the previous book. So like Verity and Fitz are already like bros, and
I love correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think besides the wolf he has a mental bond with, there aren't like any new characters that he like has. No, there's like
guys like Blade, who's like the captain of the guard or whatever, is introduced, but he's only in like two scenes. Yeah, no new main characters except Ketrikin gets obviously a big she has a character change. She becomes
an actual character,
yeah,
because she only appeared in like the last third of that of the previous one. Mac, do you want to give a quick synopsis of the first book, just to jog everyone's memory?
Yeah. Little boy, who is the bastard of the coolest, most epic king in waiting, Prince Chivalry. He's a bastard. He's brought to court. Chivalry realizes this great shame, and so he leaves. The boy is raised at court. At some point, the king is like, hey, you can keep living here if you become my assassin. And he's like, okay. And then he becomes the assassin, and a bunch of court intrigue and drama happens, which eventually leads to this mission to assassinate this guy in this mountain kingdom. And that goes horribly wrong, and Fitz gets terribly poisoned and almost dies, but not before thwarting the plan and somehow making it out alive, but forever scarred until the book needs him to not be scarred and do action scenes.
And another background thing is there's magic. Like sort of a new scourge on the land called the Red Ship Raiders.
Oh yeah,
they're raiding the coast. Guys. They're like stealing, they're kidnapping people. They're pillaging and burning down villages. And instead of killing people, they're like taking them to have them like soul drained so that they turned into like husks of their former self and are basically like wild people.
It's
sort of like zombies.
It's fast. And then in this book, definitely like zombies. There's like in the first book, it's like, oh, the bad guys are like the fellow court nobles, and the big dread in the distance are these Red Ship Raiders. And then in this book, it's like, oh, now that we're fighting the Red Ship Raiders in earnest, but like there's hints that like, like who made the Red Ship Raiders go crazy? It's like, what's going on
or
here?
Like what's happening with them?
Yeah, there's like an escalation, and it's perhaps there's like ghosts in this section. Like, who knows what's going on?
Fitz is like seeing things. It's kind of it's like low key, but also like very stressful. Like there's a big sense of like foreboding, and it really seems like there's not much that any individual character can do about it. And so it's starting to feel very dire, like sort of a vice.
Yeah, like the
sort of tightening
the war
around.
Is not going
everyone.
Well. There's like even a pre-chapter thing is like, we didn't really think about it at the time, but we had 4 ships. Like they were big, but we had 4 of them.
And it took them so long to get those 4 ships.
Yeah.
Because at the end of this section is when they start like fighting people with these ships.
Yeah.
And like they had to like, make the whole deal to get the wood to build the ships. So it's like super grounded. Like in other fantasy books, you'd be like, and then
there's trees and they built
40 ships and everyone was great and they beat back the raiders. But it's like this kingdom is taxed itself to build 4 ships. It's like no one is around that knows how to build ships anymore.
Right, they need like the special white timber from the mountain kingdom, and then they need fish ship guy or whatever to
and then they like start hiring like the out islanders, like,
and there's like
refugees
racism,
who know how to sail,
but
like the mainland people like don't trust them because they come from the same land as the people raiding them, and so it's all very, very grounded and realistic.
Yeah And we learn perhaps there's a out islander guy on the ship who is named, but I don't remember his name, but he's like a chill guy, but he like sees a dead Red Ship Raider and he's like, oh, his name was Javi, and Fitz is like, huh? Like I don't have time.
A real Samwise Gamgee moment, right?
yes. Except this time they were like bros. They were like, yeah, he was a cool guy before the evil got him.
Before he became a Nazi kind of.
Yeah.
A pirate Nazi?
Yeah, pirate, corrupted Nazi? I'm not really sure.
So that's the synopsis. Little boy, he can do magic.
He can do magic.
Oh, yeah. He can do 2 kinds of magic. He can do the wit, which means he can commune with animals. It's sort of focused on, dogs, and in this section, a wolf.
And the natural world, like he can sense human beings and stuff.
Yeah. And he can also use the skill, which is the magic mind reading, like it's basically like a psychic. Think of your favorite Pokemon, Abra, using confusion, and it's basically that.
Yep. Or it's
and only the royals can.
It's like Charles Xavier wearing Cerebro, but you don't need to sit in a room and wear a big helmet.
Mm-hmm. You can know from anywhere.
Yep.
All right. So let's dive. Shall we dive in, or do you have any other more thoughts before we get going?
No, I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. So we get the prologue, and as in the first book, Fitz is like writing his memoir, and he's like so weak and can't hold a pen anymore, and he's reminiscing about his life, and he's like, man, bad stuff happened. I wish we could have done more, huh? And this is where we get our plot catch up from the previous book, sort of framed as him writing this down and thinking about power and being all like, why was I doing all of this stuff? And like, it wasn't really for anything. Like, I was just trying to like do the best thing. But then he's like, it really comes down to, I wanted to be with Molly, who was his. I don't think did we ever bring up the whole Molly thing in the last episode?
I think we talked about it briefly, but it didn't.
Because they have this whole thing where like she's a little bit older and he's a little boy and they're sort of falling in love, but he doesn't notice. And then at some point he like realizes that he's in love with her and like goes with flowers and like not a box of chocolates, but something.
But yeah,
to like profess her love, and she
says, "No, I'm gonna fuck my cousin
with like another guy." And Fitz is like, "I'm ruined," and he gets drunk and thinks that he lost her.
But turns out it was all misunderstanding.
Turns out she's a pretty misunderstanding, and she's very close by.
She is.
But we meet Fitz, and he is recovering from the events of the previous book in the Mountain Kingdom with Burrick. And he is horribly scarred from his ordeal because he went through a lot physically. He keeps having like seizures and he's super weak and it's very sad. And he doesn't know what he's going to do. Like, does he go back to Buckkeep? Does he just like strike it out on his own? Burrick says he's pledged to Fitz because of the earring.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I forgot about that.
Because Burrick gave Fitz Chivalry's earring, which is like a silver net with a sapphire in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And Fitz doesn't know what to do, and he's like, I'll go back to Molly, and Burrick's like, I think she's going to be with a guy who's super sick and who's been lying to her. And Fitz is like, good point. And he's like, I'm not going back to Buckkeep. And then he has a seizure and goes to sleep.
Yeah.
And then he has a dream that changes his mind.
It does.
He has a vision of Molly in the village being attacked by the Red Ship Raiders at a town called Silt Bay. And then he wakes up and he sees the Fool. And he's like, Fool, I don't know you're here in the Mountain Kingdom. And the Fool's talking to him. And slowly Fitz realizes he's dreaming from like the point of view of King Shrewd, who is like old and sick, and he like there's like amazing descriptions of like what Fitz feels like being in this old guy's body and how like he doesn't feel old but like it hurts, and like it's very like haunting.
Yeah, he finds like the distinction between feeling sick and feeling old, and he's like, oh, I think I could get better because I don't feel like this, at least, thank God. But we also learned that Shrewd is also sick and old. So it's not just him being old. He's living with his stoner nephew who's fucking him up.
who's feeding him the good kush. Yeah. But that's the story where we find out like, hey, Shrewd's kind of sick. He's not feeling so well. Fitz wakes up and he's like, well, I've changed my mind. We're going back to Buckkeep. And he gets back to Buckkeep. And shit's fucked kind of at Buckkeep. Yep. It sort of seemed like, oh, everything's fine at the end of the last book. Everything was not fine.
But at least it looks a lot nicer because there's a queen, and he's like, oh, there's no dust anywhere.
So it's just a bunch of guys.
Yeah, the boys were hanging out.
She can dust. But we find out that Molly is serving in Buckkeep, and she's there because she's in horrible debt because her father ran her candle making business into the ground. And Molly is very mad at Fitz for lying to her about who he was. And as a reader, you're like, oh yeah, she didn't know. She just thought he was like a guy, not like the son, the grandson of the king.
Yeah. He would have been next in line for the throne had he not been a bastard.
And Fitz is like, I thought you were in love with the other guy. And Molly's like, that was my cousin, you idiot.
And the only reason he thought they were in love was because she was like crying into his arms or whatever because her dad had just died, and he's like, they must be in love. But he's an idiot. He's like an idiot little boy, and that is brought up again and again and again and again. So
he's like in his head, it's so he only knows things from like his perspective, and I won't fault him. He's got a lot going on. He's probably like the busiest. What is he, like 16 now?
Yeah, I think so. 15, 16.
He is the busiest teenager. He's taken a full AP credit load.
He is.
AP fighting, AP love,
AP poisoning,
AP
sneaking around,
AP giving food to the prince, AP giving food to the king,
AP dreaming.
He's big AP.
He's passing AP dreaming. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's getting college credit for AP dreaming. But Molly's mad at him. King Shrewd is really sick and sort of won't come out of his room, and the fool keeps like, hey Fitz, you should go visit the king, and the Fitz is like, I don't have time for the king, he's fine. King in waiting Verity is using all his time and energy to keep the red ships away because they still don't have boats, and so Verity, like in the last book, he was doing the skill in his tower all day, and the skill is physically draining and mentally draining and also addicting. And he's doing this all the time to like confuse the navigators and everything. And so he's all busy doing that, so he can't spend any time with his new wife, Princess Ketrikin, who came from the Mountain Kingdom.
Which, and to be fair to Verity, told King Shrewd that was going to happen. Because he has to be he's the only, he's like Merlin, he's the only guy who can do it. But the king is like, well, you also have to be a husband. And it's like, well, what? Do you want me to be married, or do you want everybody to be dead and, turn into zombies?
And Princess Ketrikin is also sad and depressed because she's bored and not fitting in and has nothing to do. Because in her country, royalty did everything, and here they do nothing. So that's sort of like the baseline of what Fitz is walking into. And the rest of this half is like all sort of the interplay of those things. You can sort of tie a plot line to like each individual character. Like there's the Molly plot line, there's the King Shrewd plot line, there's like the Verity plot line. This is why he's, in all these AP classes, because he's literally helping every single one of these persons all the time.
There's a wolf plot line.
A big wolf plot line. So a big chunk of this first half is Fitz trying to be with Molly, and everyone telling him no, and him not taking no for an answer. Do you want to talk about this little?
Yeah. So the problem is, you're like, why can't they just be in love? And it's like, well, they could, except it's mostly actually because she doesn't want to become like just the wife of the bastard prince. Not because he's a bastard, but like just cause he doesn't. She also still doesn't understand what he does. So like she doesn't know he's the assassin.
She just thinks he lied to her about that he's the bastard, and then that's it.
Yeah,
but, like he also kills people.
Yeah, and so she would be like cooped up in the castle all day if they married, and she wants to get enough money to start her chandlery again. And
which fun word. That means a candle shop.
Yeah.
And the last name Chandler probably comes from
a man who makes candles?
Like from Friends.
Like from Friends. You know how his last name is Chandler.
Well, if his first name is Chandler, then he definitely made candles.
And he was somebody who worked on the internet. Wow. What a beautiful story.
He searched how to make candles on the internet.
That's what Chandler Bing directly translates. The Bing
family is the family who uses suboptimal search engines.
They're like Jan from The Office. They have their own candle business and their weird workspace or whatever. But yeah, so and Molly's also pissed that she lied, and Lady Patience, Fitz's stepmom, is like, she doesn't. You have to be, you have to leave that girl alone. And he's like, no, I love her. And the whole thing very cleanly maps on to how Prince Chivalry courted Lady Patience when he probably really shouldn't have, and instead should have gotten married. King Shrewd It's like he's against this marriage, and it's very obvious why, because he's like, this is not going to happen again.
Well, and also like you Fitz, you're barely useful, as an assassin. Like when you get married, it's going to be useful to the kingdom. Like you don't just get to marry serving maid. Plus, everyone's going to say that serving maid is like she's going to be like your whore, and like
she's like the concubine. But Fitz pursues her anyway, and they convinces Molly. Some of this like feels a little, I'll be honest, a little back and forth, and I'm like, this book is very long. Like there's like a section where they finally meet and fall in love, and then there's like a bunch of pages where they meet again, and she's like, actually we're not in love, and then that's just resolved, and they're like, we are actually in love, and that is very teenagery stuff. It's very accurate, but I was like, all right, I know, like I'm waiting for the final tragedy, not like all these interim like hiccups in this relationship, because we know a tragedy's coming, because in the beginning of this book it like Fitz in the future is like, oh, I don't even want to think about all that stuff with Molly, and you as the reader at the time think it's like, oh, because it never worked out at all, and then when you find out it did work out, you're like, oh no.
Or like kind of worked out, like something like oh no, it's good, and we know the other shoe's gonna drop here at some point.
So that's what I keep waiting for, but that doesn't happen in this section, obviously. It might not even happen until much further on, even in the third book.
Well, and one of the reasons Patience is so against this is like because I think she was married to chivalry, and so she is very keenly aware, like, hey, if you are
I love this
devoted to the king, like, you can't, I believe the quote is, you can't put two saddles on one horse.
Yeah, and she's like, you'd have to find a woman who is okay with only having that little fraction of your time. And Fitz is very accusingly is like, well, then what about you? And Lady Patience is like, well, I was. And Fitz is like, oh, I'm being rude to my stepmom. And they like have a fun. I love Lady Patience so much, and I love her and Fitz's relationship. That's all really.
I don't think we talked about this last time, but she's very like ADHD, neurodivergent coded, which I'll absolutely love, because like the first thing is like she has lots of crazy hobbies, and her room's always a mess, and there's always a bunch of stuff, and every time she comes in, Fitz she's like, I'm drying herbs for this new thing I'm doing. Fitz, pick up some herbs. It's great.
And she has like a washerwoman, a hanger-on named Lacey, who is like a plump
warrior
older woman. Who's like a plump older woman, and then Fitz makes fun of her, and then she like ninjas across the room and like points like a knitting needle at his neck, and it's revealed that like she's like maybe the best swordsman in the whole castle. Because
Fitz goes and he to Lady Patience and is like, oh, I want to make sure to check on them to make sure they're okay, because like, oh, this court intrigue might get a little too a little too hot. Lady Patience is like, I'm fine, I have Lacey.
Oh, that's also a reason why Molly, like, Regal is in Molly's ear big time before they're in love, and he's like, he's a bastard, he's lying to you about all this stuff. That's a big reason why she was like so mad at him at the beginning. But Regal didn't say nothing that wasn't true. Right. It's lying.
Well, it's also really menacing. It's like she's like, oh, Prince Regal's so nice, and Fitz like, Prince Regal. And even as a reader, I'm like, Regal's talking to Molly. Oh fuck.
Well, there's like a moment where like he sees Regal come out of Molly's room, or like Regal come out of it's like somebody's room, and you're like, oh my god, the worst thing ever has happened. What? But she's like, no, he's really nice, and then you're like, oh my god, that might be the worst. Yeah,
that's what I love. Like, the point of view in this book is so limited that like it really you can't like you're like right in there with the character. I think I said this last time. Like, it's not first person because the middle schoolers reading this book need to put themselves in the main character's shoes. Like, it's limited to give a specific like experience and to like really be like, this is what Fitz is seeing and experiencing. Because really even some of the things that like he doesn't realize, like, you also don't realize because he's too busy thinking about other things until.
But all the information is there.
Yeah, all the information is there.
Like, there's a moment where he's trying to petition King Shrewd for him to ask if he can marry Molly, and there's a moment where he finally gets into King Shrewd's quarters and like realizes like, oh my god, King Shrewd is really sick, and like there's this whole plot like Prince Regal is trying to like slowly kill him with this drug. And that scene is all very tense and stuff, that even me as the reader, I completely forgot that Fitz was supposed to talk about getting married, and as soon as he leaves, Fitz remembers that that's why he was there in the first place, and I was like, oh, that's so good, because I totally forgot too.
And it seems so like small potatoes. You're like, do what? Like, am I gonna ask to marry the serving woman to this like this guy has so much going on, he can't even handle like getting out of bed. You're not gonna be like, my grandson wants to do what? No way.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, man, this is I love all this court intrigue stuff. I love that as soon as, like, from a character study wise, I love that as soon as Prince Regal gets back, he's right back on the mischief horse. I love that.
He's like, that didn't work out. That didn't quite work out entirely. I'm going to start again.
Immediately, too.
And doesn't Fitz talk to Verity, like, and is like, hey, Regal did this. Should we kill him? And Verity's like, are you an idiot? I'm not going to do that. Like, that's not going to... You don't have proof. We don't have proof. You just have to limit, and it'll be used against us, you know.
Like, even in front of Chade, he can't say, like, oh, I hate that Prince Regal, because that's treason. So they have to, like, talk around it. Even though Chade does, too, and I'm sure Chade is planning to assassinate him or something.
Right. Fitz is in town for some reason, and he sees a wolf in a cage, and he buys it, and he feels bad for it.
Reverse. This is opposite Vin. What happens here?
That's right.
I couldn't stop.
She finds a dog in a market. I could not think of that.
This whole time I was like, "Oh my god, it's another young character with a talking animal sidekick." I was like, "No." Well, as soon as that scene happened, I was like, "No."
I totally forgot about that. This is so Vin.
But no, he doesn't.
But as far as we know, Night Eyes isn't a weird jelly man.
That's true. He's a normal wolf. But it's fun in this world, much like, you cast, like, Speak with Animals in D&D. They just, like, talk normal. I love that. Like, he can talk to the wolf, and the wolf's like, he literally, like, did something cool, and the wolf's like, nice. Like, that's awesome. That is awesome. But yeah, Cub, he's named Cub at first, because he's a cub, and he's like a real angry little bastard, but Fitz is like, I'm gonna get rid of you, but of course he doesn't, and they bond very deeply.
He's also taking AP Wolf because he's also hiding this wolf in like some abandoned cottage in part of the castle, and he has to bring it meat and food, and he has to keep it secret because, if Burrick was mad at Fitz bonding with a dog, him getting caught with a wolf, not gonna be good. Also, if anyone else catches him with a wolf, he's gonna be executed because the wit, I don't know if we haven't mentioned this episode, but the wit is like viewed as evil beast magic by like the rest of the world, and so anyone who exhibits these, it's like being a witch. Anyone who exhibits these traits will like basically get executed.
And Burrick is so pissed off about it, but there's like a moment when Burrick's dog dies and he's like way too sad, and Fitz is like, you son of a bitch. It's like, you've been doing it the whole fucking time. And that's, trying, and I think that Burrick is very, surly and moody like an animal would be. Like, I don't know, it's just like that whole, I love the fact that Burrick is so clearly, obviously, using the wit all the time. He's the stable master. Like, he does it constantly. And he knows that Fitz is doing it. There's, like, a moment where Fitz is in great danger, and he's, like, saved by the wolf. And Burrick obviously knows, but there's, like, a moment where Burrick's like, I'm going to teach him how to use an axe, and also some other stuff. And you're like, finally! Because this is so helpful. Like, it would be so helpful if he could just go wolf mode, which he does, sort of. He, like, starts biting people in fights, which is really gross. He, like, rips out a dude's throat with his, and he, like, doesn't know he's...
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to him being a insane berserker warrior.
Yeah.
Which it does happen in this book.
It does. It's awesome.
You wouldn't think this moody teenage love story turns into, like, Rambo First Blood on a boat. But it does.
Hunting small-town police officers with a wolf companion.
At some point, Shrewd gives Fitz a mission. Remember this? To, like, poison this rebel in Barrens.
Yeah.
So
this is all only to set up... like, this entire section is just to remind the reader what the hell his job actually is.
Right.
And to set up why the king won't let him marry Molly later.
Right. So Shrewd, there's like this rebellion going on. This one like warrior woman is leading a rebellion in the Duchy of Barons, which is another coastal.
But it's like subtle.
duchy.
Like she's gained like fame and like almost a church-like status, but she still sits at the table. It's not like an armed active rebellion.
Right. And like whoever the Duke of Barons is like, this is kind of an issue. Can you take care of him? And so Fitz poisons her. I think it's actually kind of cool how he does it. Like it reminds us that he's good. He like, do you want to explain it?
Yeah, he gets, so they're like having dinner and she's being just like rude and Fitz is like, all right, you're dead. Like, you're so dead.
He like felt bad about it. He's like, oh, she's an asshole.
They get into like a fight at the table and Fitz does like cool anime guy stuff where like she pulls out a knife and like slams it right next to him, but he was like, I knew she was gonna do that, so I didn't flinch. And it's like, oh, you're so cool. But he afflicts her with a poison that like a pox spread. It doesn't actually, but it like replicates like a spreadable disease, and so she's like shunned from society and also can't fight anymore. Because the idea was like, well, if I just kill her with like a knife, she'll be a martyr. So I have to like embarrass her so much,
and he challenged her to like a fight
and then
in like 3 days, and she doesn't show up because she's sick and poisoned, and so like not only is she dead, she's also like discredited.
And Lady
Celerity,
Celerity is the Duke of Bayern's daughter, and she's like, wow, Fitz, you're so cool, and he's like, whatever, girl, like I gotta get back home. And then when
I got myself a serving maid. Yeah,
and so when he petitions the king, he's like, I want to marry this girl. The king is like, oh, I know, and I agree. And Fitz is like, really? And it's like, yep, she's sending you a letter. She just has to wait till her sisters get married. And Fitz is like, that is not who I meant, Grandpa. No.
Oh, I just about the random girl you don't know.
We were talking about Molly. This book has probably got to have the best, like most wonderfully written. Even calling it a sex scene feels graphic, but like I mean they do bang it out a few times, but the way it's described is like so beautiful.
I think more than a few. They're doing it like
they
on
do
the nightly.
Right, but like the first time when it's described, they're both like virgins and they have sex with each other for the first time, and it's like this beautifully written section that's just like so like it's very, very cute, and it makes me very glad that at least they have each other, which is going to make it hurt even more when they don't anymore.
Something happens. Well, and it's great because the whole conceit of the stories is like they're being told in the past tense, or through like this Fitz's memoirs, and so like in this moment he can like pull back and like be super poetic because like it sort of reminds you that he's writing it, so it's
writing
almost
he's
like Fade to Black, like, and then we were banging, it was beautiful. He's like, I had heard it's been called a battle, I heard it's been called a dance,
so...
and he like goes on this whole thing, and then it's good, and then they're laying in bed next to each other. It's
the last time in a book I read a sex scene, they were rubbing clits and sucking dicks. So this is just a very nice change of pace.
Yeah, this is not Fourth Wing.
No, it's not. But I would say borderline. A lot of this, is this romantasy, Danylo? It's a huge part of this is the romance.
This first half, I would 100%.
Yeah,
like it's got a great. This is a great romance. I think it's awesome.
It's fantastic.
Because it's like they can't be together, but they can, and they know each other from. It's just so good.
And it's colored really well by the fact that they're both like 16 or whatever. And so it's like they both have no idea how to navigate this stuff. Like there's a moment where she's like, we're married. I'm your wife already. And it's like, you're like, oh girl, like you can't, like this is not like, it's just so.
And it's like so obvious, like almost. The second they like are together more frequently, like like this is not gonna work out because like everything else that's happening, like there's no way.
There's like a thing. He's like later. When he's like going on these ship raids. He's like the thing was I'd come back, we'd have a passionate embrace, and then we'd fight about literally every little thing. And it's like, that's because he's never around. It's because he's never around and he can't give her attention. And even when it's like, we'd fight about every little thing. She's like, I want to have my own money. And he's like, you're fucking crazy. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, I think this is so... I was going to bring this up before when we were talking about the romance with Lady Patience. Like, this so mirrors the fact that, like, he's dedicated to the king, and it's the same thing as Lady Patience with chivalry, and that's also mirrored in with, like, Kettricken and Verity, where, like, Verity doesn't have any time for Kettricken because he's busy, like, saving the country, and so it's... Yeah, the plight of being, like, loyal to someone, to the greater good, almost, or, like, something beyond yourself.
Yeah.
Which I think is what this whole series is about.
Oh, for sure. There's literally a magic power where you can give yourself over to someone so hard you die. Like, that's absolutely what this is about.
Do you hear the weed whacker in my distance?
I do.
He will not stop weed whacking.
I wonder if that's a city guy doing the public roadway, or it's just your landlord or something.
Yeah, I could check.
That's true. That's true. Let's find out live on the air.
I think it's the guys my landlord hires to do the front.
Yeah. Well, I can't hear it anymore, or it's very, very faint.
Okay, that's good. I think they've moved to the other side of the building now.
That's all good. Right. You've had a run of bad luck. Remember when you had the truck convention in the back alley?
That's a weed whacker convention.
Oh my God, that sounds awesome. Tim Walz is speaking at the weed whacker convention.
He's really connecting with those guys. Okay, yes. So we haven't talked about Fitz's relationship in Verity. He's also taking AP Verity.
Yeah.
Because he's also Verity's serving boy.
Verity, just as a reminder, we keep saying Prince Verity. He is the current king in waiting. He's his uncle, Fitz's uncle, Prince Verity.
And every time Verity sees Fitz, he's like, "You remind me more and more of your dad every day."
Yep.
And Fitz is like, "I don't know what to do with that information. I never knew him."
Stop saying that to me, please. I hate it. Which, fair. I probably also wouldn't love being compared to, like, the most perfect man of all time who made the most tragic mistake of all time, who then was assassinated.
And also, like, so much... Like, I think this happens later, but also a little bit, like, he also gave Fitz this life, and Fitz is, like, miserable all the time and hates it all.
I don't know if this is this kind of book. Danylo has read more of this series than I have. I keep waiting for a chapter to end, and it'd be like, and then Prince Chivalry showed up. And it's like, I keep waiting for that.
That'd be good, huh?
I doubt it, though. I don't think it's that. Maybe in ghost form or some sort of spirit skill form, but I don't think he's not dead. Maybe he's like a force ghost.
A skill ghost.
Skill ghost. An SG. Could be.
Big SG. So... The Forged are now a problem, and Verity wants to, like, know what's going on. So there's this whole subplot where Verity's like, okay, we got to teach you the skill, Fitz, because you are not good at it, and Galen in the last book sort of fucked you up. So the plan is I'm going to, like, ride inside your head all day so I can see what's going on. And they have to, like, practice this while Fitz is out, like, killing forged ones. And there's this horrible scene, and by horrible I mean
this is awful,
where, like, Fitz stumbles on, like, these 3 forged, like, ripping a toddler apart.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but this series feels so comfy, even, like, among the intrigue, that any time there's, like, this, like, horrendous violence, like, Robin Hobb doesn't pull any punches. Like, and then the prologue, like, they were, like, killing and raping and maiming.
That also came stuck
and Shrewd, and, like, Shrewd was able to feel all of it because, like, he has these skill dreams, and, like, Fitz could feel what it was like for Shrewd to be able to, like, literally feel the pain of all his people. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's so interesting the aspects of violence that, you know, Robin Hobb through the character of Fitz chooses to describe. Like, a lot of, like, there's no, like, action in the book in the way that, like, Brandon Sanderson would write an action scene.
Yeah, it's not like an anime.
Like, I dodged to the left and stabbed up. That's not really what it is. It's just, like, a horrific description of a toddler getting ripped apart, and then it's like a in-book fade to black, and, like, Fitz has murdered everybody. Or it'll describe, like, when Fitz is being, like, almost got. But then like there's a moment here where he's getting like crushed to death, and it's very descriptive, but then he manages to escape, and then the book is just sort of like, I killed them, because like Fitz doesn't like recalling that stuff, so he doesn't, which is good. I think that's really good, and still gets it across. Like the stuff that he's willing to talk about is still also horrific. I think there's something to be said for, he is okay with violence so long as he cannot be directly implicated in that violence. Like, he is a poisoner. He's not like a Assassin's Creed assassin, and he doesn't revel in that. And I think one could make an argument that's like, oh, he's trying to actively absolve himself by writing this memoir and removing himself from it. He was like, oh, it was the wolf bond, like, oh, that, like, but you know, like, is it, I think you like killing guys, and you don't want to admit that to yourself.
I guess I didn't think about that, like, how trustworthy is it? Because it's said that, I mean, even Verity says that, like, hey, once you start fighting, you go into, like, berserk mode. Like, I can't reach you. Yeah. And even Fitz, like, you know, in his own account, says, like, I don't remember anything. I just come to, and there's a bunch of dead people, and I have blood all over me.
Yeah, but it's like, is it you don't remember it? Because you get a feeling, like, he goes out with his boys, and he gets fucked up, and, you know, like, talking about battles. And there's, like, a moment where he's drunk, and he says he doesn't like fighting. But who among us hasn't been drunk and expressed, like, I don't know, something that we woke up and we're like, well, I didn't really mean that. Like, fighting is pretty cool. Like, he goes on the ship, and there's like literally a description right before a battle where he's like, I felt the slight nervousness and tremendous joy of being able to like fight again. And it's like, you are going down a dark path, my friend.
Yeah,
I do think it's also funny from like a character level up perspective. Like, Robin Hobb needs these action scenes to unfold, and Fitz is a terrible sword fighter. So there's just like a section where it's like Burrick actually found out he's really good with an axe and taught him how to use an axe. Now he's the best axeman in the whole world. Anyway, now he can fight, and I just
and Fitz's chosen weapon is an axe,
which is pretty cool. It's like an inelegant weapon viewed by like warrior classes.
And I also think, you know, to sort of counterpoint your thing about Fitz, you know, liking fighting, I think, at least I interpret it as, it's almost like a skill wit thing, like where he blacks out. Like, I think it's like sort of a wit thing, like where he goes full animal almost.
Yeah.
Because that becomes a thing later on. We've definitely not gotten to that part. But where, like, there's, like, evidence of him exhibiting wolf-like behavior while he's fighting, and people are starting to raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, and there's, like, cool moments of the perspective where Fitz, it'll be something like, so he'll be out with his wolf, right? And it'll be like, I was walking down the street, or like I was walking through the snow and my feet were wet and I leaned forward on my paws, and you're like, wait a minute, what? Because he's like both the wolf and himself at the same time, which I think.
And when he dreams,
cool. It's like, the same thing when he dreams.
He's like in the wolf's body the whole time, experiencing it.
Oh, just one more thing. There's a moment. It goes back to the Molly stuff where it's actually before when he visits King Shrewd. Like, this is, I swear to you, this exact same thing that happened to me. You get so high, like, you're just like at a party, and like somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, are you okay? And he's like, I'm okay, man. No, I'm good. I'm okay. He's just like walking around, like looking at people, and it's like, I bet they'd be in love. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't love beautiful? And then he like wakes up in his room. I was like, that's awesome, man. That is real shit, man.
Fitz visits the king at some point, and then he doesn't realize how bad it is. And you also, as a reader, all of a sudden realize, like, oh my god, Shrewd is getting poisoned by Regal, because like Regal's guy Wallace, who's fantastic and a total dope,
he's
but
awesome.
he's like always guarding the door. And always, as soon as anyone enters, he like runs to tell Regal. It's very funny.
He's not like poisoning him. He's getting him addicted to drugs so hard.
Right. There's like the smoke, which is like incense in the room, and like there's a spice he puts in the tea.
Melange.
And Fitz sort of goes in there, and he's like, "Okay, we got to clear you up because you're clearly not yourself." Yeah. And he starts like opening the stuff, and then Regal comes back and it's like, "My dad's sick. Don't you know? Like, you're being a douchebag. And so Regal sort of gets control of that situation again. But another thing to dread is like, how do you stop this from happening when like Shrewd seems fine with it, and like the Fool is there, but he like doesn't have any power because he's the Fool.
Yeah, and what's fun is I can't figure out his end game here. Like, if he just kills the king, Prince Verity is going to be king. So like, it's fun that there's like a part of the plan is revealed, but it's sort of like a plan that on the face doesn't have a clean endpoint. But Regal is so smart that it's like, oh, it does. I just don't know what it is yet. And that's a fun thing to try and figure out.
We didn't talk about when Regal tries to kill Kettricken.
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah, so, and she starts like a army. I forgot all about that.
So yeah. So earlier on, Fitz is like coming back from a forge thing, and he's like, "Huh, it's weird that Kettricken and Regal are riding around." And he talks to Kettricken, and Kettricken's like, "Yeah, Regal's been nice. I've been so isolated, and he's so nice." And which is a little crazy because Fitz is like, "Remember he lied to you about everything?
Yeah,
like 2 months ago." And then another time, Fitz is coming back, and he sees a horse with like 3 figures attached to it running through the woods, and it's Kettricken being attacked by 3 forged.
Yeah.
And so he like saves her, and she like would have died if Fitz wasn't there. And they go back, and like a mob forms because so like they were the story was Regal and Kettricken were riding, and Regal's like, "Hey, look, a fox! I'm gonna go get it," and then
cringy.
just speeds off as fast as he can.
Yeah, it's so funny.
And then
I love it.
His game was like, and then Regal like came back, and then people were asking where Kettricken was, and he's like, I thought you already came back. Bye.
Yeah, I thought she was with you, bro. And he's like tussling his hair, and it's like, anyway, we'll see you later.
So yeah, he left her to die. Fitz saves her. She comes back, and everyone's like, "Wow, what a badass our queen is! She like killed all these guys." And then a mob forms, and it's like gonna go exact revenge on the Forged. But Kettricken like becomes the queen in that moment where she like flips it around. It's like, "Hey, this is not like a hunt for animals. These are like our countrymen and countrywomen, and like we're gonna kill them because we have to, but we're bringing them all here and giving them like a state funeral and a state burial." And then she sort of through that wins the hearts of the keep, and this Queen's Guard forms.
It's a really great section. It's presented as almost like, oh my god, they're gonna go out and they're gonna do like a terrible pogrom or like a genocide. Right. That's like what the vibe is. But then when Lady Kettricken gets the mic, she's like, no, like we just like this needs to happen because there's no cure yet, and if we don't, they're just gonna keep killing and like raiding these villages. So but they like after every person they kill, they like bring them back and have them buried or no, like a funeral feast. Yeah, it's a beautiful section.
Yeah, and also my favorite section because Verity bitch slaps Prince Regal, which I think is fantastic.
No, he doesn't bitch slap him. He punches him right in the nose and breaks his nose.
Oh, was it the nose? I thought it was like
that's why his
palm.
That's why his nose is bleeding.
Because Fitz says, he's like, I looked away so I wouldn't see Verity hitting Regal.
Yeah.
It's great. Because all my homies hate Regal. Regal's
all my
horrible.
Homies hate Regal.
I
don't get it. His name is Regal. Danylo, what?
But he's so nice. He always buys me fun. He always gives me cool drugs.
God, the drugs there are so cool. Oh man,
yeah, they're not good. They're cool.
They're cool. They taste cool.
Okay, so I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
So the Fool is like a time traveler.
Yeah.
Remember this?
Yeah. So this is probably I think we've sort of talked about everything. This is the big thing.
There's the whole thing about there's like warships.
I guess, but like they're just like fighting the red ship raiders, you know? It's like cool sections.
Well, except for one, there's like a white ship, and there's a guy on there, and
there's a ghost.
There's like a ghost ship that no one else sees, but only Fitz sees, and there's like this figure dressed in white, and he points at him, and it's like, oh, they're coming to us, haha!
Yeah.
And then Fitz like repels him, and then never sees him again. So.
And
that's probably who's doing all the forging. There's some sort of magic, but we know nothing else.
One of the Out Islanders is like, "Oh, they're
never
don't speak of the white
ships."
Yeah. And also this Out Islander keeps throwing a name around. The I don't remember what it is, but he's like, "Oh, the Citrax got got him. Oh, this was all good before the Citrax came. And
it was like okay, a whatever. Name. It's like what they call being forged or something. Right, right. They have a different name.
But then it's like, Fitz never says this or comes to this conclusion at the time, but you as the reader are like, oh, the Red Ship Raiders are also forged, maybe. Or like, they're not.
Or there's like one guy doing it.
Right. But yeah, so the Fool...
the Fool's a time traveler.
Yeah, the Fool's a time traveler because like Fitz... The Fool gives a very funny ultimate, like a deal where he's like, all right, if you let me read this piece of paper, I'll answer any secret. And Fitz foolishly says that the secret, he wants to know from whence and where the Fool came. And the Fool's like, are you sure? And he makes Fitz say it 3 times. And the Fool's like, all right. And he says like the most harrowing things of all time. And then Fitz has like a tremor and seizure. And this is when he stumbles down to the party high.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to see if I can find it. Yeah, and he like Fitz immediately regrets it. He's like, oh wait, never mind. Because the Fool is like super intense. And he's like, he keeps calling Fitz the keystone, the catalyst. Yeah. And like this is all about you. Like, I'm here because you're here. And he's like my people come from a time in the future, and they looked back and saw what led to the end of civilization, and then I see that too, and you're here. And like you're the one this all rests on.
He's like, you're called the Farseers.
Fitz is like, stop.
You're called the Farseers because in the future you're gonna see far into the past and prevent the world from being destroyed. You're not called the Farseers because of what you're doing right now. And Fitz is like, how do you know that? And the Fool's like, I have 2 dads and 1 mom. And Fitz is like, what are you talking about? Also, that's why I'm translucent. Because there's like literally a moment where he's like, sometimes when an otherworldly being gets together with a normal person, sometimes their sun is translucent. It's like, what the hell is going on?
All right, wait, I want to read this section.
Yeah,
so
please.
It's crazy because we get like no lore, and then some crazy person dumps a bunch of lore, and you're like, whoa.
Esoteric lore. It's not just like specific, like here's what's going on. It's like insane.
Like you thought the Fool was crazy, and you're like, I'm a time traveler sent from the future because your family can see back in time. Also, and you started this all.
There's a moment where
then leaves, and then is never mentioned again.
Yeah. The Fool says, "You're the keystone. You're the person who can change everything." Well, you're one of them, and it's like, what? Who else could it be?
Yeah, he said, the fall of the kingdom of the 6 duchies, this is the Fool talking, was the pebble that started the landslide. The soulless ones moved on from there, spreading like a blood stain down the world's best shirt. Darkness devours and is never satisfied until it feeds upon itself. And all because the line of House Farseer failed. That is the future as it is woven. But wait, Farseer? Why do they call you that, Fitz? What have your ancestors ever foreseen afar to gain such a name? Shall I tell you how it comes about? The very name of your house is the future reaching back in time to you, and naming you by the name that someday your house will deserve. You're like, what? And Fitz is like, I gotta go have sex with my girlfriend.
Which is like, oh, so there have been more than one time traveler, and like maybe a time traveler gave them the name Farseer back then because he was from the future and saw that they saved everything.
Or he's like not a time traveler. It's like he was born in time, but like they like send it's like a skill terminator, like someone's so good at the skill that they can like send knowledge back in time, which is crazy. In a worse book, this little passage is what the rest of this book would be about.
Yep.
But it's literally never mentioned again. And then you think about it all the time.
And you know what's funny? I'm not even sure it ever needs to be mentioned again in the rest of this book or the next book.
Because it doesn't matter, because it's so about like Fitz and his life and his actions. Like this is what the Fool's deal is, and like if Fitz isn't around the Fool, Fitz doesn't know what's going on,
Right. So good.
This section ends. It's a section called Interludes.
Yep.
And one of them is Fitz and Molly have sex on a beach. And then Molly tells Fitz that everyone thinks Burrick is hot.
Yep. And he's like, that little scar he has above his hip? And first of all, I was like, Fitz, how the hell do you know that? Second of all, he's like, ew, everybody thinks my dad is hot. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
But, like, he knew that already. There's, like, a moment in the previous book where, like, everybody's like, Burke used to be a big hit with the ladies. But it's like, you don't want to think about your dad being hot. Like,
right.
Ew. You're not going to make me attracted to my dad, says Fitz.
Well, there's not a lot that happens with Chade in this section, except...
He goes out of town.
Regal tries to poison him.
Yeah, because Regal thinks that Lady Time is the poisoner, which he's right. He just doesn't have the full story, and so he kills Lady Time, which is also very funny. There's like a moment where Fitz is like, so what woman is Chade gonna kill and then like send her body back? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
And Chade is like, I'll find a body. I'll find you a body. And they're at the end of this section, they're like, Chade is about to go out of town and everything's really hard. And Chade says, sometimes it would be much easier to die for one's king than to give one's life to him.
I like that a lot.
Oof, that's good. I totally forgot about that line, but like looking back,
that's an all-timer.
That's what this book's about, baby.
Chade hates being a king's man.
Yeah, he's the king's brother.
They all do. Also, you learn what being the king's man means. In a pre-chapter thing. They're like, the queen's man or king's man generally refers to the person that the king pulls the life out of for use of the skill.
Oh, yeah.
And
which is what chivalry did with Burrick.
Right. And which might not be what's literally happening with Fitz, but it is what is spiritually happening with Fitz, like emotionally, physically. Like,
right.
He's having the life drained out of him by not being able to be with his love. Which is good. It's just compelling.
Well, and Verity, like, literally does it.
Oh, yeah. But he doesn't do it anymore.
Also,
he's vowed to never do it again.
And also, last book, Fitz was doing it with Burrick. And Burrick is like, I'm sworn to you because you're wearing Chivalry's earring.
Yeah.
Man, so good.
I just wish Fitz would get good at this skill already. He's so good at it.
There's one person who can teach him does not have time. He's like, I need your bare bones is that you need. Well, it's also extra hard. I think Verity says this at some point. Like, your walls are like so strong, like I can't even break them down. Like Galen fucked you up, and like it's all I can do to just like be in your brain while you're on a ship. And then like the second Fitz starts fighting, Verity gets like ejected from Fitz's. And isn't Fitz is also extra on guard because he's trying to like keep the wall up that protects the secret of Night Eyes, the wolf he's bonded with, but then there's Verity. But Verity also like knows, like
he knows something's going on. But Night Eyes even says, he's like, you got to stop talking to me when he's in my head. And Night Eyes says something like, I can't. It already takes so much to talk to you. Like, you think I'm also trying to talk to him? And Fitz is like, oh. So there's like moments like later on where he's like, oh, I guess I can talk to both, and it's all right. Because I don't think.
I think this happens here where one morning after Molly and Fitz have sex, Verity's like, you got to learn to keep your mind to yourself, buddy.
Yeah.
You woke me up last night.
And Fitz is embarrassed and then feels really guilty because he knows that Verity will never have that like love connection. Like, he's just married to have an offspring. It's really sad.
Which is funny because that's sort of what happens in Fourth Wing also with the dragons.
Oh, you're right. Oh no,
because they're mind bonded.
Oh no, you're right. I forgot about that. We can't escape any.
This is bad. This is not bad. Fourth Wing. This is good. Fourth Wing.
Yeah, this is good. Well, Fourth Wing was pretty okay. Fourth Wing too, but yeah, no, I agree.
That's what happens in this section. I'm excited to talk about the second half next time. Mac, what is an elderling? There's been a lot of talk about elderlings, and they're like, we're gonna need to find the elderlings. The elderlings helped us in the past. King Wisdom went to ask for the help of the elderlings, and no one knows anything about them.
They're like an ancient, I don't know. I guess they're like used to be two races on this world, and one of them is gone. And it happened so long ago that it's like, the book describes it, or Fitz describes it as like, well, you wouldn't like write down what a horse is. Like, we all just know what a horse is. What you'd write down is like how to care for horse shoes. So like, that's all the stuff they have for the elderlings. There like is a lot of information about it, but it's like how to eat florbalnoop in your globbledop. And he's like, okay, I don't know what any of this means.
Or like, or he says like, there's a lot of talk about like storms and like fires, and like, so it's fair. Like, we don't. I'm assuming they're like gods, but like this whole series is called the Realm of the Elderlings.
So this, this takes place in what I assume is the Realm of the Elderlings, but they're gone, or maybe they're in hiding. It could be that whoever is doing the red ship raids is an Elderling.
Yeah,
and that's what I think. Like El, the sea god, like that used to probably be like a Elderling who is really good at the ocean. You know, like sea.
Or like, is Ada the?
No, El is the sea god. Ada is the earth god.
Earth god. Yep.
Yeah, because it's like Arda, which is.
Maybe we'll find out what an Elderling is.
You know, it's very Malazan. I like or I guess that's just like my most recent example. There's like fantasy where it's like, I guess it is also Tolkien, but that's just because we get the Silmarillion, where it's like the gods are just like very vague and also maybe just like chill dudes. Like there's like the magic in the world, like there's like ghosts, and the ghost isn't like a big scary zombie. It's just like a guy in a boat who's like, hey, get that guy. And then the ghost
or like in Tolkien, where like, you know, if a group of people wanted to try hard enough, they could go to I don't remember what it's called. It's Mandos,
the halls of Mandos, Valinor,
or they can go to Valinor and be like, please help, and they can be like, okay.
Like the fool even says that he was like, I was born in a country, like if you go past the bottom of the world, you'd find the country. And you don't know if that's like, okay, is that just because like people don't take boats that far? Because people didn't take boats that far in our world for a really long time either. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's just what's going on, or did he really mean like it's not on the world? Like, what is he talking about?
I don't know. I don't. But know. Yeah, they just have 4 ships. Oh, well, this is another, like, there's a battle on Antler Island where like Fitz.
Oh, it's all very good. Battle. Like, I just don't think. Yeah, there's not a lot to talk. There's like a battle. He
kills a bunch of people.
He's a warrior now. Yeah, Fitz is a warrior now, and he's becoming a war hero. Is what's happening.
Mm-hmm. And he spends. So I guess now he's like 17. This takes place like over almost a year. Like it's through that winter.
Yeah.
And then through the summer, he spends the time on these warships, like going after Forged and patrolling the waters and battling.
It's just the one. Like, it's the Rurisk. It's named after the guy. Yeah, the prince who died.
Yeah. I know we talked about, but I had a question. I was going to talk about like, oh, what is this series about? You know, but I think we explored that pretty well. It's like you know, the relationships. What does like loyalty mean?
How much of yourself can you give before you're not yourself anymore? Is what I think the prevailing like thematic question of this series is so far.
Yeah, and also like, you know, control over your life. Like how much of your life do you put in other people's control? Right. Like what's avoidable, what's not. Like, what is the nature of human relationships, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's hard, because, like, like, Verity loves Fitz, but, like, if Verity's going to die, and Fitz is going to be the source of energy that he's going to save him, like, he's going to do it.
Right. No, it's all very, very good. Like, nobody... And that's what Shade tells him at the end of the first book. He's like, hey, you are expendable. Like, just because they like you doesn't mean you're not expendable.
Well, I think it's sort of... You also get the sense, like, it's shrewd too. Everyone's like, we're all expendable. Yeah, like literally, sure. And they are expending themselves like towards the good of the 6 duchies. Like whatever that means, you know. And everyone's at like different levels of okay with like knowing what that means, what can they actually do, how much of themselves are they able to sacrifice. Like Verity is like killing himself in that tower because he's the only one that can do it. But like, how much is he actually doing? Because like the red ships are still attacking. Like he's doing all he can do, and Shrewd is doing all he can do, but he's like being zombified and he's old, you know. So
yeah, it's gonna suck when he dies at the end of this book.
I think that's what's gonna happen.
I do. I think Shrewd is gonna die, and we go into the next book. I don't know if Verity will be king, but there will be a king. It might be Regal, it might be Verity.
Yeah, what are the other called shots? Dear listener, I have finished this book.
Yeah,
I could not restrain myself. But I remember being halfway through, I'm like, I don't really know where this is gonna go.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know. When he got poisoned at the end of the first book, I was like, oh, well, that explains why he's all messed up writing this memoir. But now he's all better again, so I'm like, oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. Something else is gonna happen, or maybe his tremors will come back. But he needs to, like, the book can't end, like, I don't know, I wonder if Chade dies or is removed by the end of this book, and we go into the third one, he is fully the king's assassin. He's not like the junior assassin.
Right.
Like, he's Verity's assassin. Chade is Shrewd's assassin. Just like the Fool is Shrewd's man. And Fitz is Verity's.
What if how would you like it if you find out that Shrewd is wit bonded to a giant squid?
Oh my god. Well, you know, he's kind of being an asshole to Fitz, so maybe that's all right. Maybe he can be a big scary squid and he can drown.
He has dementia, Mac.
Oh yeah, that's something we didn't say. He's like repeating. He keeps like repeating himself.
Oh, he calls.
Yeah.
He calls Fitz chivalry at some point,
yeah,
and I'm like, oh no.
He sure does.
So
it's super sad.
Oh, what was that you were mentioning before we started recording about like a super sad part or like a really good passage you went
through? It was the baby being ripped apart.
And
the mom. The part that made me like tear up is the mom cresting the top and being really happy, and then seeing being really happy because Fitz is holding a child, and then meeting Fitz's eyes and her like heart breaking.
And then Fitz describing like hearing her wails and everything. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Man, these books are something else.
Yeah, they're really good.
It's crazy.
I wonder if all of it is really good, or if there's like a few stinkers.
They seem to have a pretty good rep. I
don't just mean these three. I mean like out of all
the rest of the series.
Of them.
That's what I mean. I sort of get that sense. I think some of them, from my cursory looking, like some of them get into more lore stuff, so they're a little slower. But I think also, every series is sort of like self-selecting. Like if you don't like Assassin's Apprentice, you're not liking Royal Assassin. You're not,
true.
If you like it, you sort of know what these books are, and if you like them, you like them. If you're looking,
and they're written in different perspectives. I know for a fact the one about the boat is third person because I may or may not have read a little bit of it, but it is not all first person. That.
I read the blurb for the first Live Ship Traders book, and I'm like,
sounds pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's in store for Fitz Chivalry Farseer.
I honestly, more people need to read these books. It's crazy.
Yeah,
like I don't
criminally obviously not underrated, appreciated,
maybe.
Undersold.
I think they're so simple on the surface, but like I was sort of, I've started the third one because I want to read ahead for the podcast, and I was sort of having like a what are we doing here sort of with this story, and this us talking about this sort of answer that question for me. Like it is about human relationships in an interesting way, and like that's clearly what it's doing. It's not super obvious. Like you do have to like think about it. Like that's what these books are about, and you can read them sort of without thinking that that's what they're about. But like, your whole magic system is you can meld minds with animals and people, and it's about like you can like bond to them. Like,
I mean,
this
come
is
on.
what
it's
this
very it's screaming out that that's like what is really going on.
All right, I don't know about you, but I literally have a dog to go take care of. So
yeah, no, that's it. I think that could be for the pod. If you like the pod, follow us on Instagram at Hardcover Hooligans. Also, send us an email at hardcoverhooligans@gmail.com. Please leave a review on your podcast platform of choice.
If it's funny, we'll read it.
Shouts out to the people who've left Spotify reviews, but you can only do stars. You can't leave comment on a Spotify review. But shouts out, thank you. And we'll see you next time. We're going to finish the rest of this book for next time, and then if you want to keep reading ahead, we're going to talk about the first half of book 3, believe it or not, the next time. So,
whoa.
Yeah, crazy. We're not breaking tradition, damn it. Whatever people say about us on the internet, on X, on Facebook, I don't care.
Yeah, there's big Hardcover Hooligans Discord on.
Yeah, we have a huge hate base. Nobody likes this show. Everybody hates the show, but they still listen. So,
if you hate this show, please just review it. So the more reviews we have, the more we'll.
Yeah, we just need that number to go up, baby. All right, stay hard, everybody.
Bye, everyone.